Today is Sunday, November 2nd, All Souls Day. Of the places you'll go. First reading is from the Gospel of Luke 19, 1-10. He entered Jericho and was passing through it. A man was there named Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector and he was rich. He was trying to see who Jesus was, but on account of the crowd he could not because he was short in stature. So he ran ahead and climbed a sycamore tree to see him because he was going to pass that way. Now, a little background before I finish reading the rest of the Gospel. The Holy Land was occupied by the mighty Roman Empire officially, which began in 27 before the Common Era, when Augustus became the first emperor, and it ended in the fall of the Western Roman Empire in 476 Anno Domini. In the Roman Empire, tax collectors' jobs were to farm taxes, meaning that they would bid on contracts to collect specific taxes for the Roman government. They paid a lump sum up front to the government and then kept whatever they could squeeze from the public, keeping the difference as profit. This system quite frequently led to corruption and exploitation, as collectors, known as publicans, would charge extra to maximize their own gain. Zacchaeus was probably no more corrupt than other tax collectors. They were allowed to extort as much as they could get to from the public after they'd paid their dues to the Roman government. This put Zacchaeus between a rock and a hard place. Yes, he was evidently an observant Jew, although his position as an arm of the despised Roman rule made him very unpopular with other Jews. If he dared to go to Sabbath service, I expect he stood all the way in the back, right next to the doors, in case he had to make a hasty exit. So when he heard rumors of a Jewish rabbi and the seemingly miraculous powers of healing, he closed up shop, and when he got to the place where Jesus was preaching, he could not even see him from the back of the crowd. I suspect that it was not just because he was short in stature, as the gospel describes him, but also that he was such an outcast among his own people because of his collusion with their Roman overlords. He must have been startled, maybe a little frightened, when the man himself broke through the crowds and stood under his tree. Maybe Jesus too would condemn him. Perhaps in his apprehension he held a little more tightly to the tree branch before Jesus greeted him. When Jesus came to the place, he looked up and said to him, "Zacchaeus, hurry and come down. I must stay at your house today." So he hurried down and was happy to welcome him, and all who saw it began to grumble and said, "He has gone to the guests of the one who is a sinner." Zacchaeus stood there and said to the Lord, "Look, half my possessions, Lord, I will give to the poor, and if I've defrauded anyone of anything, I will pay back 4 times as much." Then Jesus said to him, "Today salvation has come to this house, because he too is a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek out and to save the lost." I expect the crowd was both puzzled and annoyed when Jesus left them to go to the base of the tree, not to castigate Zacchaeus, as they would have done, but not only to greet him, but to go off with him to his house, even before the stunned tax collector confessed to him and assured him he would change and return all of his ill-gotten gains. As I was wrapping up Zacchaeus' amazing story, I looked down at a children's book on my desk near my computer. "Are the Places You'll Go" by the famed Dr. Seuss. The cover captured my eye. This was certainly the experience of Zacchaeus as he would proudly lead the Rabbi Jesus back to his home, but with extra taxes he had extorted to have him feast with him there. Then I thought of the day a black seamstress in Montgomery, Alabama. Rosa Parks, a seamstress, was told by the bus conductor to go to the back of the bus, where the black people were graciously allowed to sit as long as they didn't cause any trouble for the white people. One day, however, in 1955, she didn't. She wouldn't. So she was arrested and dragged off the bus. This act was the spark that started the fire under the civil rights movement. This action, refusing to give up her bus seat to a white passenger in Montgomery, Alabama in 1955, sparked the Montgomery bus boycott. Her act of defiance helped launch the modern civil rights movement and made her a symbol of fight against racial segregation. Parks was born in 1913. He had been very involved in activism before the bus incident, serving as the secretary of the local NAACP chapter and working on cases involving justice for Black communities. So on December 1st, 1955, she refused to move from her seat in the colored section of a public bus to make room for a white man as required by segregation laws. She was subsequently, as I said, arrested. Her arrest led to the amazing Montgomery bus boycott, a major protest where thousands of African Americans refused to ride city buses for over a year. They had to walk to work or carpool. The boycott ended after a Supreme Court ruling desegregated public buses at Montgomery. Parks' action made her a powerful symbol of nonviolent protest and the struggle for racial equality. She continued her activism throughout her life and is often called the mother of the civil rights movement. That act many years ago led to the Civil Rights Act of 1974. Other places she went. Then, as I got up from my bed several days ago, ready to wrap up my homily, I was already ruminating on what else I was going to say to you today. When I stood up, it hit me in the face, literally. I went to sleep wearing this t-shirt. This is the story of Malala Yousafzai, a young adolescent girl going to school in a school bus in Pakistan. It started out to be an ordinary day. It's probable that she is somewhere in the middle of the bus, chatting with her girlfriends past the time until they got to school. As they were chatting among themselves at a regular stop, a Taliban gunman boarded it, gun in hand, and shot her in the head. Her crime? Wanting to get an education. Malala was born in 1997 and was only 15. Her own story does not end there. The gunman was a poor shot, fortunately, and she ultimately emerged with all of her faculties intact. It has been a long journey for her. The bullet grazed her head and caused multiple injuries to her skull, facial nerve, eardrum, and jaw joint. They had to do multiple surgeries. She is reminded every day that her body still carries the physical and emotional scars from the attack. The Taliban's ideology restricts women's role in the home, systematically excluding them from public life, education, and most forms of employment. The United Nations has characterized the Taliban's treatment of women as gender apartheid, amounting to crimes against humanity. The group enforces these severe restrictions through violence, intimidation, and constant surveillance. They dictate that a woman's place is in the home, viewing her public presence as a source of sin that might be controlled by a male relative or maram. Among other things, women are forbidden from traveling more than a short distance without a male escort. All women must wear a head-to-toe covering, typically a burqa or full-body abaya with a face covering hijab. Male relatives face punishment if women fail to comply. They have banned women from public parks, gyms, and amusement parks, strictly enforcing gender segregation in all public places. The Taliban has completely dismantled access to education for girls and women past primary school, making Afghanistan the only country in the world with such a ban. Women are barred from universities, and the ban even extended to women nursing and midwifery, threatening public health. They're also barred from fields like engineering and journalism, deemed too difficult for them. Violations of Taliban edicts are often met with brutal punishment, and protections for women have been dismantled. These have been abolished, and women are denied access to any justice. Women who attempt to protest are arrested, detained, and tortured. Women can still be publicly flogged, stoned, or any other thing for perceived moral crimes, such as adultery or fleeing an abusive home. The Taliban's persecution of women has drawn widespread international condemnations, including the Muslim-majority countries that the state restrictions have no basis in Islamic law. The International Criminal Court has issued arrest warrants for top Taliban leaders for gender persecution. This has, however, not slowed them down. Last year, a private girls' school was bombed in northwest Jerusalem. The attack followed multiple threats from militants, as seen as an attempt by the Pakistani Taliban to enforce bans on girls' education in tribal areas, similar to the policy of the Afghan Taliban. So, Malala still persists up to the present day. She was the youngest Nobel Prize winner for peace ever. Her story began early. She was encouraged to pursue education by her father, an educator who ran a girls' school. After she was shot in the head, Malala began blogging for the BBC and speaking up publicly against the edict. Then she was shot on her way home from school in 2012. The attack, which drew international condemnation, led to her being flown to the United Kingdom for treatment. After her recovery, she continued her advocacy on a global stage, speaking at the United Nations and co-founding the Malala Fund with her father. In 2014, at the age of 17, she became the youngest recipient of the very prestigious Nobel Peace Prize. She's also authored the memoir, I Am Malala, and the book, Malala's Magic Pencil. In 2017, she was granted honorary Canadian citizenship. After her secondary in Pakistan, she continued her studies in England and later attended the University of Oxford. In summary, Zacchaeus was called out of a tree, Rosa Parks was called to the front of the bus, and to the white section, and Malala has come out of a brutal shooting on a bus to be a world advocate for women's education. They were a lowly tax collector from the Roman Empire, schoolgirl, and a black seamstress, but fate or divine intervention had much bigger plans for them. What in your life are you being called to do today? Congratulations, today is your day. You're off to great places. You're off and away.